I slept with my friend's wife after his funeral. My friend has always been manic-depressive since I met him. He had 5 kids with his wife and struggled to provide for them. I had just gotten divorced when he killed himself in their shed. His wife took their kids and was staying at her mom's. At the funeral, I asked if I could help in any way, and she asked if I would go tear the shed down. She never wanted to see it again. I took my truck and trailer and, not wanting anyone else to have to see whatever it was I was about to see, proceeded by myself to tear down the small wooden shed. The inside was what you would expect. He had blown his head half off with a 12-gauge rifle loaded with buckshot. I donned plastic gloves, took everything valuable out, and put it in my truck, planning to clean it, go buy her a little plastic shed, and put it all in there on a different spot on their property. I knocked the shed down and dragged it up onto my trailer. Just as I was tying it down, she showed up. She was by herself and went straight inside. I was actually just going to leave when she shouted at me from the door. I went in, and she thanked me and gave me a drink. When I was done, she wrapped her arms around me and buried her head in my chest. We held each other and cried for a long time. Then she started kissing me. We kissed passionately, and her hands went to my belt. Soon, clothes were off, and we went wild. We did everything, for hours. I cooked some dinner, we ate in the nude, and then we did it all again. She left for her mom's, and I went to my friend's house, where I was staying. I took the shed to work with me and, with some help, threw it in a dumpster on my lunch break. She and I have never hooked up again or even spoken about what happened that day. Part of me wanted to pursue it, but part of me knew that together we had too much recent pain and baggage and couldn't be each other's rocks at that time. That was years ago, and she has a new man now. I don't know him, but I respect him for taking on 5 kids, and I hope they're happy. My uncle spit in my aquarium. I, a female, was about 8 years old at the time and had a new pet for 2 weeks. A goldfish named Ben is in a small, round aquarium. I loved him so much. My parents liked to party at our house with their friends on weekends. My uncle was always there too, and he always overdid it with the alcohol. One Saturday evening, I was already asleep in bed. Suddenly, I heard the door open and someone came in. I pretended to be sleeping. I thought the person would walk out again at any moment. I heard strange noises, like someone was undoing their belt and taking off their pants. When I heard farting noises, loud moans, and someone singing "What Shall We Do with the Drunken Sailor," I couldn't understand anything. The farts were getting louder and louder, and I was starting to get scared. It started to smell disgusting. The person left my room again, and I fell asleep at some point. The next morning, I heard my mother screaming. I woke up and saw my aquarium full to the brim with *T. My goldfish Ben survived, thank God. To this day, I still wonder how. It smelled like hell. We only found out it was my uncle when he did the exact same thing to my cousin's spider. I still hate him to this day, and whenever I hear the song "What Shall We Do with the Drunken Sailor," I get goosebumps. I was her backup plan. About 20 years ago, I met a woman who I had an instant attraction to. I found out she was recently divorced, so I pursued her. She seemed interested. I asked her out, we started dating, and eventually we moved in together. This all happened over the course of 2 years. We were supposedly taking it slow because she was still sensitive about the breakup of her marriage. I thought things were great, and I was really in love. I was planning on asking her to marry me if things worked out with us living together. After just 2 months, I came home, and she had packed all her things and informed me she was going back to her ex, and they were going to work things out. I was hurt, but I knew she still had feelings for him, so I wished her well and tried to be understanding. She said she waited until I was home to tell me in person, which I thought was weird since she decided to pack her belongings first. I had a vague feeling that she was just going to ghost me, and I came home before she could leave. She got back with her ex, and I started dating other women again. After about a year, she contacted me just to see how I was doing. We talked, and she let me know things didn't work out for her and her ex, and she wanted to see me again. I was still into her, so I agreed, and we started dating again. Another 6 months went by. We moved back in together, and everything was going great. I still wanted to settle down with her, and she was also feeling the same. Once again, after about 4 months this time, she comes to me and lets me know that she wants to date other men because she was still young and in her whole life she had only been with her ex-husband and with me, and she wanted to know what was out there. Again, I wished her well, and I moved out. She wanted to be roommates while she dated. I couldn't do that, so I moved out. I knew we would never be together after that and made up my mind to move on, but I was hurting. Not even 2 weeks went by, and I found out she had met another guy at her work. She was a bartender, and he was the reason she wanted to start dating again and didn't seem to care when I told her I was moving out. I don't know how long they were talking before I left, but he moved in not even 2 weeks later. When I found this out, I was hurting even more. It took me 2 years before I could convince her to move in with me, but only 2 weeks for this guy. I eventually started to get over it after about 6 months. I'm still sad, but I see other women. Around that time, one of her friends contacted me and wanted to speak to me. I was confused because she was her friend, not mine, and I didn't feel we were particularly close. So, we met, and I'm dreading that it was a setup to get me and her friend back together again. I still had feelings for her but no longer wished to pursue a relationship. She starts the conversation by saying that it's not her place, but she felt I deserved better. She goes on to tell me that her friend, my ex-girlfriend, confided in her a long time ago that she wasn't really into me at all, but I was a good guy with a solid career and secure future to settle down with in case nothing better came along. I was stunned by this, and it was like someone flipped a switch. Instantly, my feelings for this girl were gone. Thinking back, it all made sense. I knew it was true. I always knew I wasn't her first choice, and I was okay with that, but to find out that I was her last choice killed whatever feelings I had left for her. I thanked her and paid the check, and as I was leaving, she warned me that things didn't go well with the other guy, and her friend had mentioned getting back together with me. Sure enough, a couple weeks went by before she started texting me, asking how I was doing, sending me provocative selfies, and even showing up at my usual hangouts. I ignored the texts, pretended not to see the club, and made a quick exit the first time. The second time I was with a date, and then I noticed that when she saw that, she made the hasty exit that time. She seemed to get the message after that and didn't contact me for a couple years after that. I'm ashamed to say that the last time she contacted me, I felt a grim satisfaction that she seemed desperate and lonely while hinting we should see each other again. I'm not going to lie, I still harbor resentment. I'm settled down with a wonderful woman now, and she knew that when she contacted me and still did anyway. I accidentally sat on my mother-in-law's sofa. My husband and I have been married for 7 years now and have a daughter. The first time I was invited to dinner at his parents' house, we were fresh together. I will never forget that day in my life, and I am still ashamed of it to this day. Even before we got there, I had a stomach ache. His mother made his favorite cocoa for us with extra cream. Even back then, my stomach couldn't tolerate dairy products, especially with so much fat. I drank the cocoa anyway because I didn't want to be rude. It started shortly after. I had extreme stomach cramps, and before I could even stand up, my underwear was completely covered in my liquid sh*T. I stayed put because I was afraid that more would come out. My mother-in-law suddenly started yelling at my husband and asked him if he wasn't ashamed in front of women so disgusting to fart. He said it wasn't him but that he smelled it too. At that exact moment, I couldn't take it anymore and sh*Ted everything that was left in me in my pants. I ran straight into the bathroom, and I felt the sh*T dripping down the floor. When I came back after 40 minutes, all I saw was a huge brown stain on the sofa and my mother-in-law's face. She asked me if I wanted another cocoa. I watched My Little Pony for 6 hours to see some tits. So, I was in 8th or 9th grade, about 13 or 14, and my ex's sister had a really big crush on me. And I kind of liked her too. Well, we're in a Skype call, and she's all like, hey, I want to watch My Little Pony, but I'm scared I'll be made fun of, and I'm like, I'll watch it with you. Duck it. And she's like, ah, that's sweet. I'll make it up to you. I'll show you, my boobs. And blah, blah. So, we watched the fucking entire Friendship is Magical series 6-hour YouTube video, and the video ends, and I'm like, sweet, can you And she's like, I gotta go to sleep. I never got to see the tits. Kinda still bummed about it. A girl says I got her pregnant. I'm gay. I, 19M, live with my parents, who are well off for themselves. Note, they pay for nearly all of my expenses, including my college, and who are very openly homophobic. I also have a best friend who, for now, is called Kira. We've been friends since grade school. Kira loves and is always out partying. This is significant to the story. I have a boyfriend named Jamie, 20. Me and Jamie have been dating for about a year. Note, he, Kira, and I are the only people who know. Now, about 7 weeks ago, Jamie had a party at his house and invited me to Kira. Everyone was drinking, but every drink I had that night was handed to me by Kira. I had 2 the whole night. I started feeling dizzy and nauseous, so since it was Jamie's house, I went to his room and laid in his bed, starting to fall asleep. Note, I was fully clothed, i.e., because Jamie helped me and saw me sleeping. That was what happened that whole night and nothing else. However, this morning Kira showed up at my parents' house, saying I got her pregnant. As said before, she knows I am gay and me and Jamie are together. My parents were surprised and asked what proof she had. She then proceeded to pull out her phone and show a picture of both of us naked lying in Jamie's bed from the party 7 weeks ago. She then proceeded to say that we've been dating since we got out of high school. My parents were shocked and told us we needed to discuss what we were going to do, saying that it's all my responsibility to raise a kid now. Kira dragged me to the living room and told me I had 2 options, either treat the babies, she's having twins, apparently, like they are mine, or she outs me. She told me she got knocked up a while back at a party and is 6 weeks old, and she doesn't know who the real father is, so it would be in my best interest to help your best friend out. So I am currently sitting here locked up in my room debating whether I should devote the rest of my life to kids who aren't mine as well as a woman I've lost all trust in and make everyone else happy, or come out to my parents and tell them about Jamie, who is almost guaranteed to be disowned and lose all the savings he used or has for me, including my college tuition and various other things, like living space. So, I have come to the place where I hear a ton of people ask for advice on what to do. So, what should I do in this ducked up situation? I moaned in front of my parents, and I was the cause of 2 divorces. A bit of a backstory: I grew up as a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force, so the majority of my childhood and teenage life was spent moving around and living on base. Depending on where you live and how big of a base it is, it may be really small, and everyone knows everyone type of deal. This particular base I was on was somewhat smallish at the time, so everyone knew everyone and their business. Now on to the story. My parents and their friends frequently had house parties, so we were constantly going to other people's houses practically every weekend. When I was around 6, my parents held a house party, and the house was full of people. There were many kids around too, so my brother and I were occupied and having the time of our lives. My mom's cousin had come down from Jersey to visit us a few days prior and was leaving this night, the night of the party. When the party was over, it was like around 3 a.m. My mom had left to take her cousin to the airport, and my dad was going to stay home with my brother and me. Now this, I did not know because we were supposed to have been sleeping. All I remember was waking up to some strange noise. My door to my room was closed, and I had my little TV on. I tried to ignore it, but it kept getting louder, so I sat up quickly, walked to my TV, and turned down the volume to listen. I heard screaming. As I grew up, I learned it was something else, lol. At this point, curiosity got to me because I quietly walked to my door and opened it slowly. The moaning was crazy at this point. Now I wasn't dumb, I knew someone was doing something freaky, but I was still a kid, so I didn't really know. All I remember was my heart beating fast and me starting to tear up because I thought it was my dad cheating on my mom with someone. My parents were right across the hall from my bedroom, so I was hoping and praying I'd see my dad in there. Thank God, when I opened their door, I heard my dad snoring peacefully in his bed. My mom wasn't there because I knew she was at the airport still. The Las Vegas airport gets really busy, and her car was still gone. After seeing my dad in his bed sleeping, I was content enough to go back to sleep, even though there was loud moaning going on in the living room. The next day, I don't know what overcame me, but my parents were outside watching the sunset, and my ass came to talk to them because of the situation. Was weighing heavily on me. I literally walked right up to them and said I heard weird noises coming from the living room last night. Of course, when they asked me what I heard, I did my best imitation of what I heard, and y'all, kin moaned in front of my parents. They were both shocked and embarrassed. Later on, I found out it was my parents' friends, who each had been married, joining up in our living room. Little did I know that little old me had started a huge divorce situation. It was bad. The husband of the chick wanted to fight the guy, etc. Now that I've gotten older, F26, I cringe at the fact that I moaned in front of my parents. It's something that I acted like never happened, so embarrassing. Sorry for the long read, y'all. TLDR, I heard moaning coming from our living room one night when I was 6-ish years old, so I told my parents the next day and moaned to them to show them what I heard. Get it, I wanted to add that it wasn't just one little moan I made. I sat there and moaned for like a minute or two. Embarrassing ASF, get it too. I remember throwing in some in my moaning act. UGHH, I can't believe I did that. I can't stop cringing.